Good evening. Welcome to our another workshop. This is going to be about position descriptions with our city clerk and our city manager. Welcome to our meeting. Ms. Silva, would you give us roll call?
Mayor Nina Guggenau.
Here.
Vice Mayor Christine Thompson.
Here.
Councilman Elston Speedy Cussler.
Here.
And Councilman Tony Brown.
Here.
Councilman Dan Levandusky.
Here.
All present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Tonight, the topics for discussion will be the position description. The first one being city manager, current contract, current job description, and then we'll do the same thing with the city clerk, current contract, and current description. And I want to hand this over to Vice Mayor Thompson, since she asked for this workshop, to kind of lead with what your interest was with all of this.
Well, my interest is that it's not fair to Mr. Van Zandt or Ms. Silva that they come into work every day and really not know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. The current PDs overlap a lot. The city manager PD compared to hers is very vague, and this needs to be straightened out for the fairness of both.
So PD is,
Position description.
gotcha, okay, just for clarification.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And I don't disagree with that. Just a little bit of background history for everyone, because we have some council members that weren't here last year. When we put together the efforts to create a city clerk position, and then also for the replacement for city manager, as she had submitted her resignation, as we all know, our city manager had been doing both roles for some time. And we did have a workshop. I actually looked at some of the recordings this afternoon just to refresh in my memory on what took place during those workshops. And we did come up with a job description for the city manager and the city clerk based on a lot of input from Lynn, plus also all of you. And then we also did our own research online to get even with specifically city clerk position. And we did the same thing with the salary effort, which we talked about last month. So that's kind of where we are, and I'm in agreement that, neither of them actually match up perfectly to the, not only just the contracts, but also to the charter. And so I do think it's important, because when we get ready to do performance reviews, we want that documentation to match up to what the job description states and what the expectation is. It's only fair to the employee that they're being graded on things that they know they're supposed to be doing. Or if they're not doing it, then we need to know that too. So I think it's a good
Right.
idea that we go through this at this time.
Well, we're supposed to do evaluations, and how can you do an evaluation on somebody who really doesn't even know clearly what their position is and what they're supposed to be doing?
Correct. So the first one, and I don't know, we received several documents today for both positions, and each one of them had what is on the charter as far as the description goes, and then also a copy of the job description that they used when they applied for the position, which is what our selection process was based on, is what was in that job description, and did that person meet that criteria. Now, today we received, and if we can get some clarification on, I'll start just with the the city manager qualifications job description. I know it says on here adopted June 12th, 2015. And I believe in the highlighting in yellow, it's showing these are charter versus the actual job description, is what I believe the legend says. So in other words, in yellow, it's supported by the charter, and in green, it's irreconcilable, meaning it doesn't match the charter. Am I correct to presume that? So if we go through, and you all tell me what you think here, because these charters and these sections are quite elaborate in the details, but when I go to the page 3 of the description, I look at what the city, well, it says city manager additional duties. The first one shows some of the basic duties in buckets, skills and past performance. I'm going to assume the ones that are not highlighted, and Charlie, please give me any input that you have with regard to the way things are highlighted. I kind of wanted to see what
Yes,
you are
ma'am.
currently doing or what you're not doing, or do we need to take certain roles, responsibilities out?
So I'm probably the oddball here. The way I've come up in the world, if you call me the manager, the commander, the head of X, then I'm responsible for everything that gets done or doesn't get done within the entire organization. So every bit of this, as a city manager, I have to own. This is right out of the charter. Perform high-level administration, technical professional work, and directing, supervising administration of the city government, both day-to-day, long-range, as well as planning, carrying out those activities. Responsible for administration and implementation of policy and law that was adopted. So I'm not saying I've done everything that's in the charter, but as I read it, if I hadn't been doing it, I pick up on it. If I need to get help, delegate, I phone a friend, assign staff appropriately, etc. So the only thing that I saw in here that I noticed that I just haven't done at all that were kind of highlighted was a collective bargaining. Evidently, the city used to have a unionized labor force, and that suspended in 2020. And somewhere, I think in the contract, it mentioned getting a notary stamp, and we've got 3 notaries and 2 more personnel processing to get notaries, so haven't focused or prioritized me getting a notary stamp. But all the other things I'm doing to the best of my understanding, unless it's explicit in the charter. For instance, the elections. And I don't think Ms. Silver or I, either one, understood when I first got in here the first month or two, we had the spring charter city elections, and I talked back and forth to supervisor elections quite a few times. But in the charter, it says the city clerk does that. So when we got to a couple of weeks ago, did the voting, Ms. Silva handled all that. So I don't know that her and I have stepped on each other's toes, but I want the council to be able to produce a performance evaluation on, and I'm just speaking for myself at this point. And the way I look at this, there might be 100 things in the charter that city managers are required to do, and I've received many inspections over just a gamut of things. In year to year, sometimes they focus on a dozen different things. You know, the next cycle, you hit other items. So what's most important to you guys is what I need to understand. What I have prioritized is preparing budgets, trying to make sure everything's accounted for monetarily, and then as we've had discussions on cleaning out the lakes and prioritizing the corner and kind of rebuilding the infrastructure that has lacked some attention over the past several years, that I've clearly heard from all of council you want to do. That's where I've been trying to focus my time. Did that answer your question, or I just go down a rabbit hole?
I guess the only question I have, of course, is the human resource management piece, which I know you've been involved in that as well. And to own that, I don't think we don't have a department, so to speak, and I know it's probably starting from scratch. But going back to when we identified the new roles, which you suggested and gave job descriptions, salary ranges for each role, and to further develop that into performance reviews for those individuals, appraisal documentation, and probably good that we all use the same format, I would imagine.
Yes, ma'am.
And that'll be important, and then a timeline for those staff members for when their their reviews will be completed, based on their length of time here and how you would manage that.
Well, my take on that is everybody needs to clearly understand what their expectations are. And so everybody that was working here last October has a appraisal in their records, in their personnel records. Everybody has a personnel
So
records
pretty much
folder
our
with their
Public Works-
things in it.
Public
Our
Works.
Public Works, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I owe everybody else that has come on board since I've been city manager an initial counseling, like here's what the objectives of your job are. Remember this job description, you applied for this job. And so I've had everybody in kind of a temporary status through the spring and the summer till council came alongside and solidified the job descriptions and the salary ranges and all that, that I can comfortably give like a 90-day assessment this month, and that's my intention, and then just get everybody on an annual track every October from here on out.
Okay, so you would just adapt that previous PA format that was used with Public Works for the current new staff, and then put together a timeline for them?
Yes, ma'am. I have another form I've used as well, just for goal setting, you know, because I want people to develop and grow in the positions that they're in.
Absolutely.
And so we'll document what my expectation as a city manager is, what their wishes, desires are for extra training or professional development, and we'll try to pull those that make sense into their scope of work.
Okay.
And you, as the city council, can decide kind of who you want to handle HR. I mean, I know what the mayor's preference is, but we work for all 5 of you. So when you look at the document that's titled the city manager job description, I think the challenge is when you look at the collective bargaining and human resource management, there's a number of different ordinance sections and charter sections. Not one of them talks about human resources. So, I mean, those are all bid and procurement policies. Has nothing to do with HR. So it doesn't vest it with the city manager, it doesn't vest it with the city clerk. So their contracts talk about those things and their job description too, but those are very easy to be changed by you.
I think, in my opinion, I think that the city could benefit from having an HR consultant. And I mean, it's just when needed, not all the time, not a full-time employee, but somebody unbiased who can come in and deal with HR issues here, or enlighten them on them. I think that it's probably a good idea. And a good example of that would be in the case of Stephanie's work comp. Nobody knew how to do it, including myself. I mean, I took it on because I had some experience working for the Navy. But there's a lot of things that happen that should be looked at by an unbiased person, and I think an HR consultant for the city would be a good idea.
Do you see that much, Rich, that type of scenario?
No, most people have one, I mean, most people you're the smallest client I have. I mean, other than Penny Farms, and they don't have a HR person or consultant. Their city clerk actually handles the HR functions.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
traditionally it's onboarding, exit interviews, explanation of benefits, and then, like you said, if you have a workers' comp or that type of claim. So you can put out for an HR consultant. I would tell you that probably should go out for bid for that type of contract.
Even somebody that we just need PRN?
The problem is you don't know what the amount of that's going to be after the total of a year, and I would imagine, especially in the beginning, asking a lot of questions, you're going
Okay.
you're going to pass the threshold of what needs to be bid out.
Okay.
So that's going to be a salary,
No,
or
it's like the engineers.
Yes, that's
be like
exactly
engineers?
correct.
So it's like a one-time fee kind of thing?
No, I mean, it's like an engineering continuing contract.
Oh, so per session or something?
So you would do like a request for qualifications, and then you find out what the, essentially what they are charging.
We have never talked about having an HR person.
Right.
Now, enlighten me on what a consultant, what would their job be? What would we want them to do if we had somebody like that? I mean, would they be doing evaluations?
No. Charlie does his evaluations, and we
Okay.
do the evaluation for Stephanie.
Okay.
They wouldn't be act as a manager or oversee City Hall employees at all. What they would do is come in when there's a work comp claim, or you could consult them for an employee issue that you really don't know what to do about. What is the correct way to handle this person? And they would also be there for the employees too.
Well, you could ask them to put policies and procedures.
Correct.
Obviously subject to your approval, in place so that there is a little more of a guideline.
Right. And neither Charlie nor Stephanie have that experience. It's a very specialized experience.
I don't disagree with it, but,
Okay.
and I don't know if the Florida League of Cities has something like that that we could bounce off of, you know, for their help,
That would be wonderful if they
where we
did.
wouldn't have to pay for it.
Yeah,
That might be something if we wanted to go that route, I would highly suggest before we went out for bid, contact them and see if they offer something like that to small cities.
Okay.
For the city.
let's do that then. Well, you're on the board, right, Tony?
Well, I'm. Yeah. Okay, let me put that down, I'll check on that.
Put that on your list.
Yeah, I got you.
What other great ideas do you have tonight?
Nothing. I'm done, I've already,
Bring him on, bring him on.
17 minutes into it.
yeah, really.
It's wild. Yeah, I feel we have to have a consistent format, and employees do have to have a neutral person that they can feel comfortable talking to and not feel, and I'm not saying we don't have that, I'm just saying, in my previous roles, it was someone who was not in my laboratory, for example, or beyond the manager I reported to, that I could go to if there was an issue of any kind. But I think the other part, the bigger part to me, is the structure, and making sure employees sign off on, I know all about workman's comp, like what am I supposed to do if I have an accident on the job? I need to do X. Check that box, they've read it, they signed off on it. These are just all liability things that employers should manage. Make sure the employees know they've read the employee manual.
I think we're supposed to have posters to all these things.
We do,
do.
in our break room. I didn't put it up, it's been there the whole
Been there the
time.
whole time.
No, it was just updated.
Yes.
Depending when it's
But I
posted
mean,
again.
you know, if I had something, I mean, I'm not employed, well, I guess I'm kind of, but I wouldn't know that that was in there unless I knew, had been told that and signed off that I knew that, right? I mean, it's just little things that, it's like a employee manual that you sign off on, and it relieves you of that liability. Because they sit there and say, well, I didn't know that, and there's a big issue. Well, yes, you did, you signed off on this last year, okay? So there's that context of what you're saying.
Okay, and I can check those onboarding packets, and if they just don't mention workers' comp, or just review them a little
They do,
harder.
there's a
and-
workman's comp article and a signing sheet that everybody has to sign.
I even got
in the
one.
personnel file.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
It's just little things like that. I think when you look at HR, just like she said, it's a totally career path, totally on its own, and you want it to be the right thing. And I think when it comes to
And fair.
right, and you want it on the performance reviews. I mean, many times I could be in front of an HR person and my manager and go through a review, but typically it was the manager to the individual. In y'all's case, it's y'all with all of us. And it has to be public, which is really difficult. I mean, it's a hard thing sometimes, and especially if it's a difficult conversation. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, Charlie, I mean, Tony, if you can look into that, be a good idea, I think, just to give us a little guide. And I'll look into a couple of things as well. I didn't even really think about consultant. I'm just
Well, I've
thinking
been
about
going
the
through
cost of
this
it.
since Sunday, I believe, and I thought, to be fair, I mean, I also believe that this is not going to take one workshop to get through this. This is going to take at least two, because, I mean, I don't know how long this workshop can last, it from 6 o'clock to, we could go from 6 to 10.
Well, we're
or
not planning to do
11
that.
I gotta go to work.
Yeah, I know,
to do
and
that.
most people don't want to sit up here, and I get that, but this is, I mean, we should go through these PDs, in my opinion, line by line, and separate the duties out, because in Stephanie's PD, it's all in there that she's HR, everywhere it's HR. And so since, you're right, Mayor, that we have not had a city clerk, and I don't remember how many years it's been, but I was never on council when we did. And I think that, Tony, were you?
The last, before we went to this form of government, we had a city clerk, which was Karen Nelson.
Right.
Well, we had a city clerk.
We had
with
it.
Scott Cornegay, because Lynn was the city clerk, and then when Scott left the city, then Lynn.
See, that
was
happened
the
right when I
manager.
came on. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that Lynn was clerk then. I thought she was always manager.
No.
No.
And then
He played the role
Scott was
of-
gone as soon as, so his
In fact,
P,
Lynn became clerk when Scott was hired as manager because Lynn had also put in for that position. So in that position, the council at the time was looking to find a role that was an appointed role for Lynn to continue with some of the responsibilities that she had already been handling.
I'm happy you remember all that.
And that was around
You know what?
2017, because it was right after.
I did
it was
not
right after
ever know,
Me Too.
I've never known that. That's news to me. Okay, so the current city clerk PD is up to date?
It's a moving target. I mean,
Yeah.
you can change what you want the position descriptions to say. It would help if, and you know, it's somewhat awkward because Charlie and Stephanie are here, but
No.
you're trying to set for the position, not the person.
Right, right.
That's correct.
That's all we're here to do. We're not targeting anybody. We're talking about their PDs and them, when they come into work every day, they know exactly what they need to be doing and when, and who's supposed to be doing what. And I don't believe anybody should be evaluated on something that is not clear to everyone.
I agree. I mean, I think that's just standard HR practices. where
Correct.
They would tell you cannot evaluate somebody when the
Right.
expectation hasn't been set out in advance.
Exactly, yeah.
So with regard to that, as we're covering the city manager position, we want to look into a possible consultative situation with an HR consultant potentially.
I
And
know
see what
there-
that,
You mentioned it, I mean, you mentioned an employee manual. There's been work on a personnel policy. I mean, that goes back as far as when Terry Suggs was our manager, and actually when Councilman Lewandowski was on, he did a strike-through underline of that personnel policy that
Oh,
was
yeah.
fairly extensive. And candidly, we never talked about it again after that. So there, I would say wherever, Councilman, if you have your notes by chance from that, that might be a
He
good
might still
starting
have 'em.
point.
I have the whole manual I brought with me.
Pardon? When Councilman
What-
Lewandowski was on
the-
council the first
Do you
time.
remember about what year?
where was that at?
I was on council from
I was given
2015
this.
to 2018.
I'll try to see what
Is this,
But if you
is
have
that what
those
you said?
notes, that would be a good starting point for our personnel policy that probably doesn't need a whole lot of massaging past that.
So
Is-
I have a confession to make. I believe that the policy manual that was on the conference table the day, it's been several months now, you and I were sitting in there talking about it, and you said, "Can I have a copy of this?" I said, "Yes, ma'am."
And here it is.
I think that one came from another city, and we were looking at that one, and I wasn't clear on this. Wendy was actually helping me with it, so we made some draft changes to that one. But then later, I believe Ms. Silva picked up the correct one off the shelf in the hallway that is the one that has been adopted by a city council at some point. I don't know if any of you
Oh,
were
that might
even
be the
here,
one
and
Mr.
so that's
Suggs
what
did.
I've been using.
'Cause I guarantee you
As
it's not a
recently as today, just with our Director of Public
If
Works
anything-
that, you know, has a lot of PTO and sick leave, just to make sure we're following the rules that are
Right.
currently enacted, and I need to give you a copy of that one.
Well, this one
But
says
this-
on the second page, City of Keystone Heights Personnel Manual Table of Contents.
She could have,
Yes.
she could have adjusted the wording, like,
Yeah, I-
in a.
Okay,
And
so
nothing-
this is, it basically,
I
this is
never even
adequate.
thought about that again until you held that up. It's not the current.
Well, I brought it with me.
Sorry.
No, I'd say that personnel policy that honestly is the one that's been in existence probably the longest. Predates even me, and I'll say Councilman Brown's probably the only one that would have been around when that was originally set up.
You don't have memory
Mr.
lapse.
Suggs spent a phenomenal amount of time, you know, Councilman Lewandowski working through it, spent an additional amount of time, and I felt like we were close to adopting it, and it just didn't happen.
Could I ask, though, that that be separate from this workshop? And this, and it needs to get done, but we will overburden ourselves and never accomplish what we need to accomplish
I
if
agree.
we add that to this task.
Well, it was brought up.
I think it's important.
It is.
Absolutely.
No,
But-
I get it, and I agree with you, Dan. I think that we don't need to mix everything up here.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
That's
this has a
kind of
lot to
workshop on its
do
own. Yeah.
with what we're talking about. So that needs to be right.
And
So
can
I'm
I
gonna
ask
put a
a
note.
curiosity question from our businessman here, Mr. Brown? Do you have an HR department head or consultant, and how many employees do you have?
I have 4 employees, and no, I don't.
Okay, well,
Small business.
small, you're small, yeah, so that makes sense, okay. We're a bit bigger than that. Okay, just curious.
Yeah. So what, did you all have any more questions about the city manager position?
So I agree with the vice mayor, but how do I say this? I don't think we should do it in workshop. I agree they need to be gone through line by line by line. But I don't think all 5 of us and 5, 6 staff need to do that during the workshop. From my Air Force experience, someone would be assigned to do that, a smaller group. And they would go, yeah, this makes sense, this makes sense. And then they would identify the areas that either are overlap or that don't make sense or are in some way need a discussion. And then the larger group would get back together and focus on those particular areas rather than all of 11 of us going through this line by line and trying to talk through it.
Rich, would that be part of an HR duty?
I'm sorry, with what?
Going through these PDs and separating them out? I think
It
we,
could be. I mean, it could be if you contracted with an HR firm or individual, it could be, but like Councilman Lewandowski is saying, it could be something that the council designates one person to prepare a draft and bring it back to you, and then you start from there.
I kind of like that idea.
There's multiple right answers here. I'm just trying not to use 11 people's time. I'm trying to use it more efficiently.
How about if you did it like budget and finance, you have 2 people from council?
You can do that.
Advertise it.
Yes. You have a publicly noticed meeting. You could do it that way.
Okay,
I don't know, what do you think, Vice Mayor?
I think that'd be fine, and I'd love to be part of it.
Well, you should lead it, I think. I know, so the question is, who goes with you? Mayor, you want to go with her?
I mean, I can go with her. I've already plowed through these job descriptions on the charter and on the contract, the way it was written, and also on the job description, based on when folks interviewed, and that's how we hired them. And I can see where they match and where they don't match. And I can see the things that step out, like jump out at me, and one of them was specifically the HR thing, because it really is kind of in both positions, descriptions.
Sounds like you're the perfect person. You've already done a lot of the work.
And that has to be ironed out, because here we are coming up on time to do your performance reviews.
Yeah.
And so, it's not that far away. We're only talking less than 2 months, a couple of months. Steps would be in December. So, but I just kind of put things in buckets as far as the city manager thing went. The only other thing I'm trying to remember that jumped out to me on the city manager. was just
May I
mainly the
address
HR
council
thing.
for just a moment, if I have a second? My major concern is all the little things that happen that you guys might not know about, like business tax license receipting, renewals, things like that. So how are we best to help you guys? Because how are you going to know what's really going on under City Hall's roof? It's not on this list. It's not in any of these documents. None of that stuff is.
So before there's the first meeting of this ad hoc committee, it would probably help if each, the manager and the clerk, provided a list of things they are doing, and then
And I thought that's what we got today. That's what, maybe I'm confused.
Exactly, I agree that it would be a good idea.
I just don't know how to start, how to facilitate this. I don't know what is best to do. I don't know. And I want to be helpful to council and to everybody. I just don't know how to begin.
I like the city attorney's idea, and when say you two are the two that are doing this, I think they ought to be in that meeting with you.
Yes.
So that if you have any questions or they want to elaborate, they're there, and that way you're getting the best information possible.
So for clarification, today we received these documents that are highlighted on city manager and the clerk. And my understanding was these are roles that they are fulfilling and the roles that they are not. Is that not correct?
I would say be
No.
careful with the documents, and I don't know who prepared them, but there's a lot of references to the charter and to our ordinances that are not correct.
Well, keep in mind.
I don't know where
did a
even these
search-
came
I did a
from.
search, and all I did, the yellow per Charlie's request. The yellow is possible that is covered in the charter specifically. The green is unclear whether or not it's a green because it needs to be looked at by council and also for you guys to determine if that falls under that area or not. And the unhighlighted parts, by no means is it an exhaustive search. It was just a very basic community search code so that you guys knew what was charter and not charter or what needed to be looked at that was pulled in charter. Every single thing else might be in the charter, but it may be not specific to how you worded it in their contract or job description, but that's, by no means was this an attorney thing. That's why when Charlie sent that out. As far as job description, the city clerk did provide with her job description where she lined out. I don't believe, this document that you're looking at is not the lined out that you were talking about, Madam Mayor. Stephanie did provide that to Charlie. Charlie, I think you have a copy in your file folder. If you have that, you can show it to the city clerk and she has her copy. Charlie was just verbally telling you the things that he is not doing for his contract and everything else. But those line items were just a reference for council, knowing that this could be covered or could not be covered within that document. By no means was it telling you guys what they did.
Well,
Okay,
and I'm just looking at,
And there's also things in the city clerk that, in her document, that are covered in the charter that was pulled just from Unicode that says the city clerk has a reference to it that were not necessarily in her job description. And there's also many things that are in Charlie's things that were pulled from the charter that may say city or something like that, that could refer to his job description, which is what he talked about earlier, that anything that's city can see business management. So does that clarify how I pulled that? Yes, it could 100% be incorrect.
well, I mean, like
Yeah.
the city clerk job description says under the general direction of the city manager, and it says charter section 6. That's not what the charter
No.
section 6 says.
Right, I said that could possibly be a reference. They're highlighted for you guys to review. It is by no means a legal standpoint, and nor did I mean for, and when Charlie emailed this out, he said this is for you guys to have a reference. It potentially could say that, because it does say Charlie is over the city, and he is management, and it does say he doesn't hire and fire, but that's for you guys to determine. I just highlighted as a layperson, so
Oh,
I
yeah,
just want to
no,
clarify and apologize.
I just
for
wanted to
any
be clear
misconception.
what the
Yeah.
roles
Yes, sir.
are. So when you look at like section 6B, it specifically says that the city
Right.
clerk
No,
reports
I'm
directly
agreeing
to
with
council.
you that by no means was I trying to make a decision there. That's yours and the council to determine that together. I was just highlighting what possibly could be.
Okay.
That's why it's yellow and green.
And I think that helps.
Everything's in yellow. So who did these? Who did the charter ordinance? Did you do these, Drew? So you did these? Because I don't have anything with
This is-
green on
So
it.
this
came on the
is,
email
yes, ma'am,
today.
you do.
This came on an email today.
So when I pulled up Unicode, I searched
How did you get
specifically
the
where
printer?
it says.
I don't have a printer.
Oh,
I'm Madam Vice Mayor, I'm sorry. You were talking while I was talking and I just wasn't paying attention.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. No, it's my fault. The charter, it says ordinances and charters. I went
Right.
into Unicode. The things that are highlighted on that is what Unicode pulled. So some of it says city and some of it says city clerk.
Okay.
By no means was that an exhaustive search of the charter or a clear understanding of how things relate to each other, okay? Because the charter is extensive and all the ordinances, and that's where your attorney comes in. But that's what came up with yellow. So, and it says city or city clerk. Those are just the things it pulled. When I went through, just quickly, because you're looking at the contract, and I was just trying to give a reference per Charlie of things that if it was charter or charter related, it may or may not, depending on the attorney or you guys, to determine whether or not that could stay or not. Anything that wasn't specifically pulled up with the name of the city clerk or the city manager, that's also just, I didn't highlight it, but it wasn't specifically anything there. By no means am I a lawyer, nor I play one on TV. I was just trying to give the council a reference, and per Charlie, because he's supposed to give you things that are supposed to help.
Okay.
Things that are charter oriented are a little harder because they have to be voted on by citizens versus just you guys on your own. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
It's
I
just
do.
a
I
guide.
understand. I
I'm so
understand.
sorry.
I don't have a printer at home, so I did not get the email that, I can't print out an email at home. So, and I
That's why we tried to provide it here.
But here's the good news. There's a lot of flexibility within the council's direction
Uh-huh.
as to what responsibilities you want to see out of both roles.
Yeah,
And really, to me, the charter's probably out of date, I'm gonna guess, to some degree on the,
We have a charter review committee every 4 years.
yeah.
so
It should be.
these job descriptions then, so why is there such discrepancy in the job description as far as
The job
advertised?
descriptions are off, but the charter's
No,
actually just fine.
Yeah, I have a copy of the charter with me too, but,
But what
The
we,
charter's intended to be broad, to give the council flexibility in your direction.
okay, but when we advertised last year, we didn't use the charter, we used the job description.
Correct.
So to me, when I looked at those things, they did not match up.
And if everybody would like a copy, that's just the beginning part of the charter that I printed for myself to read. I'd be glad to make all of council a copy of that.
This is it, what is this for
The
HR?
charter.
Oh, the charter for the city, for the everything?
For us.
that's the complete charter. Yes, and that's what I brought with me. I have a
And I'll be
copy.
glad to make a copy of that for everybody if you guys would like it.
Okay,
Or if you can pull it up on Municode, it's
Yeah,
easy
you
to
can
see
do that
yourself.
too.
Yeah, which is what I did today, I pulled it up on Unicode. So should the job description that was advertised match what's in the charter?
It does, and let me explain to you why. Because when you read the charter says that duties and responsibilities will be set forth by council. So that job description was set forth by council.
Okay,
The charter is very, very broad and basic as to what the authorities are.
okay, so that basically is a description, general description of what the role is, but not individual job responsibilities in the charter.
That is correct, and you don't want those things in the charter.
Okay,
You want to
gotcha.
give yourself as a council the flexibility that
Little room.
you may want to change those things. I mean, let's just go back 15 years. Like now, one of the responsibilities of the manager or the clerk is going to be social media and the website. We didn't have social media 15 years ago. So again, you want to give yourself the flexibility so that you can set through that position description the expectations for each of those jobs.
Right, okay. Because we put some real serious effort into the job descriptions last year and pretty much nailed it down with Lynn's recommendations on how to recreate the roles and agreed to that job description on what we felt was appropriate. And now, we have both positions going, and I think they're doing quite well, but I do think there could be some tune-up with the specifics. I think everyone's got to understand the HR thing, who's going to do the HR piece.
Well, I mean, think about this. You have city departments. I would say as a starting place for council, decide who is over each city department. So when you have issues like public works, road department, who's dealing with the parks, who's dealing with the pavilion, who's going to deal with events, who's your, by the way, I'm saying all the things that are traditionally the manager. Who is your outward face for community events, for Florida League of Cities, for the chamber, for Rotary, those types of things. And then to flip to the side of the clerk. Traditionally, the clerk is your agenda, minutes, website, notice, public records requests, documents, the ability to find documents from a historical perspective. Oftentimes, your city clerk is the one that's over HR. Who are you going to have over finance? So think of like your silos of what work the city provides. Public safety, who's over that? Security, who's over that? So think of the functions of what the city does, and then I would use those functions as to decide which one of your manager or clerk should handle those things.
Okay,
And then make your position description match, and then candidly, your position description should match, or your contract should match your position description.
okay, because I noticed the contracts too were not quite the amount of detail that the job descriptions had.
It's the
When I looked at them.
and duties as prescribed
So it's
catches
vague.
a lot of stuff in
Right,
each of
I
those
know.
contracts.
I'm kind of a detail freak, so I matched word to word, and that's just kind of how I look at it. So you talk about, let me find what I I had here a second ago.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please do.
Rich, you said historically the city clerk is over HR?
When we say over HR, we're talking like when somebody first gets hired, they help them fill out the paperwork. I mean, that was the extent of what we did for HR.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, giving it to one person is kind of, to me, is kind of confusing because Stephanie falls under council and Charlie falls under council, but they're separate. Their positions are separate. And that's what I think where the HR piece is so important here. So I think that I'll be happy to look into these descriptions and with Nina, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I
With
mean,
the help of Charlie and Stephanie.
right. We want to do what's the right thing.
Yes, we do.
You know, and I shared this with Rich a little earlier. I decided to look into the relationship and the roles between city manager and clerk, and for the state of Florida with Florida League of Cities. They performed a survey back in 2019 with 292 municipal clerks in Florida regarding how the city clerk's office is structured in their municipalities. The survey was conducted electronically from October 22nd through November 15th of 2019 with a response rate of 75%, or 219 clerks provided input. It goes into a lot of data on all kinds of things. So for example, 90% of the cities have 5 or less employees in the clerk's office, as it refers to, but that's clerk's office. They show here on this really nice chart, and I did have a copy if anybody wants copies, but it gives me a nice pie chart on a variety of topic. One of the things was, who does the city clerk report to? It showed here 52% shows city manager / administrator. City council was 38%, and the others are much lower, less than 10% each. It shows other duties of the clerk's office and what they're responsible for. 49% demonstrated finance director. As far as HR, it was 28%. It goes into cemetery management, public information officer, business tax receipts, webmaster, and other. So it's really kind of interesting, and I think everybody has their unique situation. I personally, I look at things like, you know, here we are, and true, we need to get through the job responsibilities and who owns what, to be fair on our performance reviews, okay? That has to be done, period, and sooner than later. But what I do look at is it's tough when folks report to us. Because when we look at, okay, so you say to someone, so I see you have this particular responsibility, and we're not here every day to see what's going on or to support what's happening or not support what's happening. So we are just based on hearsay, the 5 of us, whatever we're told. And I personally don't make any decisions until I'm absolutely 100 and 200% sure, which means I have to usually witness it. And then I'm sure. Then I'm going to make a statement about something, or correction, or whatever. But I do find that under the structure of reporting to the city manager, which I'm pretty sure Lynn probably would have wanted in her role, because I think that's kind of, it just worked a more fluid situation overall, it seemed like. But the thing is, coming to us and we say, okay, well, you need to, for growth, we want you to do X, or I want to give you some mentoring to do this procedure, because you maybe don't know how to do it, but you need to get training to do it, because it's in your job description. And for us to have ownership of that mentoring to train that individual, I don't think any of us have the capability of doing that, including myself. We can give guidance, but how do we monitor the outcome and the production of that training? So I feel like, you know, in a way, under the city manager role, they would have an opportunity for growth and mentoring a little more conveniently than going through the council. It's just my personal opinion. And also, I think that, you know, we sit here and have this done publicly, like we do y'all's reviews, it's in the public. Just like, unfortunately, you had to go through all that mess a month ago, which I absolutely hated. but it's in the public, whereas it can be a lot more private and more one-on-one, personalized to me under a different format. It's just something to consider. And I absolutely want all of our employees to be treated equally and fairly and to have the correct opportunity for growth. Even when, like, you came into this position, Stephanie, I knew you were going to be able to have a lot of growth. And that was partly why you accepted the job the way it was presented. And I think every role in this building's got opportunity for growth. But I'm just not sure, how we play a role in ensuring that you get that opportunity, if you follow me. But I want to share this information with you because I thought it was rather interesting. And I just happened to Google it and just curious. And then, like I said, the different buckets of responsibilities. And I think that, who knows, down the road, the unfortunate thing is we can't train you to do budget and finance or train you to do HR. But if Charlie's over that and he wants to transition that to you, he could. And it's all within his realm of responsibility and to say, here's how we do this and this and this. And then, of course, we get an outsider to come in and do it. They're not here all the time to see and do everything either. And it's just my position on the way it works. And I just think in
I
general.
don't think either one of us care whose has it. We just want somebody to be assigned it so we don't step on each other's toes, much like, business tax licensing. A lot of the little things, like, we don't know who it falls under, and we're struggling to figure out who does what, and if it's something that I don't need to be touching and needs to be in his, we need to know those things, rather than I start a process and then find out halfway through I should have never done it. Or, vice versa. I don't know that that's happened to either one of us. We're very gracious with each other, and regardless of whose job it is, we're going to get it done.
Yeah.
But it would be so nice to have a clear picture of what is his and what is mine, not because we want to separate it, but
Yeah.
because we deserve clarity.
Right.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're going over this. That's why I wanted this workshop to happen.
Yeah. So
And that's exactly what you both should expect when you walk in here in the morning, to know exactly who's supposed to be doing what.
Right. Do you guys have any comments?
This is a workshop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this idea may be totally tossed out the second I say it. But I just want to brainstorm. And I'm glad you brought up the data here about what different cities do. And if the city clerk and the city manager are not interested in this, then please throw it out. But what about the concept of putting the city clerk under the city manager instead of under the city council? There
You
are
just have
some-
to change your charter.
We would, right, we would. But
That's
it's
pretty much
an
what I was
idea.
just talking about.
Yeah, just an idea. And there's advantages to it. I don't want to take a whole bunch of time, but it's just an idea.
Well, and
Throw it
that's,
out there.
and that's why I mentioned what I did. I think that being under the city manager, he is here every day, he sees all the staff, he knows what everybody's capable of doing, he knows what some people can do great and people who want to do certain types of tasks better than maybe they want to do something different, right? And that person can help that person, if they don't know how to do a skill, help them, mentor them to get that skill or help them get it, whatever. Like if you came to me, like if I said, okay, Steph, I want you to do all HR. And you come to me and say, well, I don't know how to do HR, I've never done it. Well, what are we going to tell you? We're not that's not our deal. And I would suggest it come from the city manager to say, okay, we have 12 employees, I'm going to send you to an HR workshop and you're going to go learn how to come back, or you go and you shadow somebody in another city who does HR and follow and copy everything they have, which is what I used to do in my trainings that I did over time. And you come back and implement it in your department, but you own it and you develop it and you write the standard operating procedure manuals, you own the whole thing and you roll it out. So, but to me, I just don't think we're in the role of coaching you on how you would go about doing
So
that.
who would be able to give us the master list of what, because we don't even know the yearly processes that occur in City Hall. We have nobody to lean on. I thought I could lean on council to tell me these things. And apparently.
Right now, your only link
Well-
to me is other city clerks that do what you
And
do.
city clerk, I can't even compare to
We're-
other cities because they don't have the same processes. And I don't have anybody to ask historically what
Right,
did. And-
because it's a new
and
job.
although I don't have a problem working under Mr. Van Zandt, he doesn't have that knowledge either. I mean, not all, maybe more than I do, but we're still lost. You've got the blind leading the blind.
Go ahead, Dan.
So I did talk to Lynn Ratowski before she left, and I said, would you be willing to be a consultant? We would pay you to come in and help us with stuff. And she told me yes. Now, I don't know if we want to go down that hole, but I think we'd have to pay her. Maybe Tony knows better than me, but I think she'd still be willing to do that.
I don't know.
I think that we're talking about changing the charter, we're talking about putting Stephanie under Charlie. That requires a vote, and we're
That's-
not
you're
here to
right.
vote.
No, you're right.
So this
No,
is something-
It requires
just
a lot
talking.
more than a vote.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what
it
we're-
has-
Yes, it would, it
It
would.
requires a resolution that would put it on for referendum. The referendum would be the next regularly scheduled election in April.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's approved by supermajority of the voters, then it actually goes into effect January 26th.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you. I didn't know it was that extensive.
Yeah, it's not-
We move
you
at
for
the
that
speed of
information.
government.
So-
We just had
There you go.
the Charter Review Commission in 2022.
Yes.
So we're not due for another one until 2026. And
So it's
even-
every 4 years,
Yep.
Rich?
But we can do it earlier. We don't have to wait.
You're right, you can.
It's just an idea. Just an idea.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I just, how does that solve the problem of who does what?
It doesn't.
No, we still have to do that.
It
You're right,
doesn't. No,
absolutely
we still
right.
have to do
Yes,
that
yes.
with-
We're just brainstorming here tonight. This
That's
is a
all we're doing.
workshop, and that's,
I'm just thinking, what is the best advantage for the clerk's position? To grow and to enjoy some privacy within the role, to be able to be a more value to the whole system without having to work through 5 people and personalities and, you know what I mean? It's complicated. It's hard enough with one, but when you have 5, it really complicates it.
But I think Stephanie has a really good point. Who does she have to go to that has all this expertise? And the only person is Lynn. The only person is
Well, there's
Lynn.
more people than Lynn. We can,
Not for what we did here in the city.
I-
Outside the city, maybe.
No one probably understands the city more than what Lynn, because she was here for 13 years.
I understand that.
Yeah.
You get somebody else in here, a consultant or whatever, they're gonna give you their opinion of how they've done it, not like the Keystone has done it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, one way or another, we have a whole new staff, and nothing against you two. You don't know a lot of the stuff that has to be done, because you haven't been in this position before. So, but I was always told the charter is like the Bible. And that's what we go on. And if we need to change it, we've always, when we've had in the past years, a charter review, we have the opportunity as a council to present to that charter review what we would like for them to look at, and one of the biggest ones we've had was the change of government from a city clerk and a strong council to I call ourselves the weak council.
No, that's correct.
And having a
That's
manager form of government. So, and some people will say, we should have never done that, but I think it's been better off that way, because you had council people over departments and you had staff that didn't, just like right now, they don't exactly know the clarity of what their job descriptions are, but we had council telling, employees and staff running their everyday operations, when the staff at the time, they were going bonkers because they had 2 or 3 council people telling them different things to do. So they didn't know what to do. But I like the form of government we've got. I hope to God we never go back to how it was. But there's a lot of things, since we do now have a manager and a clerk, that we as a council, it's our responsibility to iron things out and make it more clear for them, because they might get better jobs and take off and go somewhere, and then we're going to start the wheel.
And
So
here we
now-
go again.
Please don't.
So now you have to start all over. If we do it, fix it now, you can hand them the documentation, this is your job. That's what we.
I'm going to say one thing about Stephanie and what she's done thus far for the city. And not being under supervision by council, because we're not here every day. We don't have offices. We have other things to do. We don't hang out. There's not one day, or there's not one time that I ever doubted that she wasn't doing her job. If you go in her office and look at all the certificates that she's obtained, she's done her own training. And I don't think anyone on this council ever told her to go to all those trainings. I know I didn't. She looked and she said, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. She has educated herself on the workings of a city and under planning and zoning, right? Planning and zoning.
I'm not great at that, let's be
No. I'm not saying, I'm not asking you that. But you have a planning and zoning certificate?
Code enforcement certificate.
Yeah, code enforcement, thank you, I couldn't remember that one. And, I mean, she has educated herself on these specific departments. So currently, I don't feel like I need to be over her, watching her every move. I know that she gets things done, she's been injured, she's been typing and doing things that probably, and that's another thing we need to,
I follow the rules. I don't do
yeah.
anything that I
Anyway, I won't talk about that right now, but I'm talking about thinking about ergonomic workstations. But anyway, I don't feel that she needs somebody over her watching her. I think she's done a great job. So, I mean, that's something that I would not be in favor of, is taking her out from under us and putting her under Charlie.
Well, and if you did, just understand that essentially what you're doing is you're eliminating the city clerk from the charter, because there would be no reason to have it. If
True.
the manager was there and the manager could hire and fire and instruct everything related to the city clerk.
Very, very true.
Just like you don't have your public works director in your charter. I mean, those are just positions that are employed by the manager.
Thank you. That's
So,
very true. That's
I
a
mean,
good
it's just
point.
deciding what you want to do.
Yeah.
So the way to look at it is, if we keep it under the same format that we have, city manager, clerk, report to us, the only way to me to ensure that things are, first of all, that you have the knowledge, education to do your job, which is outlined in the job description. Number one. Number two, when you review and you have, let's say we update with you all every couple of months, we put you on a schedule. I'm just going to call it a cadence for better words. And we sit down and we go, okay, where are you on data retention? Have you developed any kind of a process that we can have to update with updated systems with all of our filing and data stuff that we are supposed to be responsible for? Where are you with that? All the different pieces of the position, regardless, HR. We go get a consultant, where are you with that and the different steps along the way to accomplish that? And it's just a kind of point check thing, because we're not here in this building to know what is going on. And the only way to do that is to have a face-to-face conversation on, okay, in 3 months, I'd like to see where you are with this and what's your progress. And if you're having problems, I need to know what the problem is and how you're going to go about fixing it or finding out how to do it.
I'm so sorry. I'm a little confused. Is council thinking that we're not doing our job diligently?
No, so you are misunderstanding, Stephanie.
This is, if I can help maybe explain a little bit differently. This is a communication and transparency issue, so that instead of having to tell all 5 of them, you would have a report back. Like, for example, I was in Baker County last night. Baker County has a pending business report, and on the pending business report, it's all the things that the commission had asked staff to do, and there's a little percentage on how far along are we.
Like
There's
Drew's
comments.
action plan.
I haven't seen that, but I mean,
Okay.
so you could do it that way. You
It's
could
just
provide.
it's just a check and balance.
Monthly
That's all
Okay,
it
that's
is.
fine. I just, clarification.
Right, it's because the mayor's saying that she's not here, even though we work for 5 bosses, they're not here every day to supervise. They have to have some sort of assurance to know kind of, are you meeting your metrics, your tasks, and things like that.
That's fine. Thank you for the clarification.
And that goes for Charlie as well.
No, that's fine. I don't
It's-
think it's a pick on. I just didn't
No.
understand.
Yeah, that we have to have a way to measure that. And I think, and I'm fine with that. It's just that's something else we need to develop.
I think they both do that pretty well through email already. I mean, if there's something that they've been working on and we need an update, then they send us an update on our work email. That's
This is a
my
good thing to
opinion.
kind of flush out with that committee.
I'm sorry? What'd you
This would
say?
be a good concept to flush out with the committee.
Yeah, right. What those particular things are.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
Madam Mayor? I can only speak for myself, but I don't walk in here every day wondering what I'm supposed to be doing at all. The charter's very clear. It says the city administration, the outward face, all of that is the manager, and I take direction and work at the pleasure of the council. That's really pretty simple. The clerk's job description, if you just look up in the dictionary, manager and the term clerk, hers is clerky. I mean, it's permitting, planning and zoning,
A lot.
agendas, minutes, and she hasn't done all of that because it is a bunch of stuff.
Right.
So we've spread that around here. She has not been restricted from going to other staff members and saying, I don't understand this, I need help with this.
Yeah.
So I don't want, for anybody that's watching at home, I think you guys have confidence in what we're doing. We're not lost and wandering around in here, and however the council decides to govern the two positions is fine. We already have a charter. I am extremely comfortable taking everything in the charter and parsing it out. And I with respect to the clerk's job description, a lot of what's in there, if I were to do something like that, would stay. And I have a pretty good sense of how much permitting, how much planning and zoning, how much budget preparation, all those things are. And, and I'm gonna work with you and the vice mayor, if that's what I'm understanding is the committee to flesh this out, but it's not perfectly maybe clear, but it's, as far as I know, we're doing everything on your behalf that needs to be done to execute the charter of the city and your budget.
I don't think anybody, well, if I gave you the idea that I was thinking nobody knew what they were doing when they came into work, that's not what I meant. What I meant is that there needs to be a clear job description that everybody should be, because they're going to be evaluated on it. And it needs to be clear and concise for each. Never once did I think that you weren't fulfilling your daily obligations. Never did I say that or mean that.
No,
So-
ma'am, I just, as I'm hearing this, I just want to give some assurance to you guys and anybody watching that we're not,
I get
the
it.
ship's good.
I get it. No, we're not sinking. We're not
mean,
sinking.
yeah, well, I
We just
mean-
want to be clear and fair and equitable for everybody that works in City Hall.
I mean, we have job descriptions that we created last year, and I think they should be pretty clear with the roles that we identified that they would be doing. I was just kind of misunderstanding a little bit with charter, because like you said, it's a general description, not every single line item. And even on the contracts, like in Charlie's, it doesn't have all the specific description of what you do, but on yours, it has some very specific things. And, and I think most of those things you are doing.
Neither one of us are not doing them. We just
No.
want extremely clear what falls under where.
Well, I mean, we have pretty much detailed in the job descriptions what you're doing above and beyond what's in the contract, because the contract does have a kind of a generalization, but it doesn't have all 27 line items listed. So when I looked at this.
Well, am I following and I apologize, I don't mean to interrupt. So am I following my contract or my job description? Because you
It
guys
should
have
be
me
the job
managing City
description.
Hall in my job
Should be
description.
the job description.
Well, you have me over public works, over staff, over everybody, and that's, my job description is incorrect then.
So I'm trying to see.
And they also have you as HR,
Yes.
many times.
Not in the job description.
In the job description?
No.
Yeah.
No, not that I saw. The job, the HR is in the other, in the city manager.
So,
Unless I
let's
missed
see.
something, but
In the
the-
job description,
It's not, the HR part is not.
no, the
It's
HR
actually-
is not.
Well, the first line is wrong in the.
Okay, hold on, I back up on that. It was in both, because in the green, that's all the HR stuff.
I don't disagree.
So it was in both positions, because again, she was doing both roles, even probably when she was a clerk.
Sure, but am I supposed to do both roles now as you hired me, or am,
No,
or?
no, wait,
No.
they're saying she because
Yeah.
there was the time when Scott left and Lynn was working as the manager and the clerk at the same time. But, the needs have changed
Yeah.
over the years, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, what your committee's gonna define is, okay, who do you want to handle the specific?
And I think, thinking back now, I think the reason, because we all agreed on these job descriptions, and we went through them in quite detail. On the HR piece, I think we left it that way because we wanted to see what kind of folks would apply and what their backgrounds would be. And nobody actually applied that I know of that had HR specific. I'd have to go look at my notes. But I know that you, Charlie, had experience with your role with superintendent of schools and in your military experience. Just small pieces, not like run a whole HR department.
Well, I did that full-time for Camp Landing,
Yeah,
cradle to grave, onboarding, pay, finance.
so you did HR is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. I was the
So
deputy
you're the
for
guy
the
to me that
state
is- yeah.
of Florida's National Guard, the deputy personnel officer as a lieutenant
I
colonel.
thought that's what I kind of remembered. Yeah.
And I should have brought my highlighted thing, because there's several things in my job description that just don't coordinate with Public Works Director, facilitate safety training programs is under me.
So-
But I don't have any employees, so how could I very well do that if I, so that's the discrepancies that I would like cleared up.
Yeah, that, and under the first line is, under general direction of the city manager. That's wrong. That should say city council. You're
And
you're
it's
the
not-
city clerk.
It's not because I don't want to do anything, it's just, I just want, I need clarification. Because at this point, my anxiety
that's what we're
is a
doing.
20, because I feel like I'm not doing something on this list, and I'm being told, the job description is what you're responsible for. Well, I'm not doing several things, because that should be under the city manager has the employees.
Okay, these documents just need to be amended, that's all.
Exactly. And that's what we're here for. So we'll form the committee and make a meeting time, and we'll go over this.
None of it has anything to do with the scope, I'll do anything y'all assign me to do. I just want to make sure nothing gets left behind, or somebody thinks one of us is doing it and the other one's, I don't know. We're pretty good at communicating with each other, but
Just needs to be set clear, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, in the contract, it's very limited buckets of responsibilities compared to the job description.
Because again, the contract was meant to be high level,
Right.
and that's why it's
Right.
as duties.
It's
are
very
defined.
general.
I mean, the concept is just that there are gonna be more specific detail, that you're gonna assign to both positions.
Right. And really, shame on us for not, looking at this. I'm very literal also, so like you, Steph, you probably look at this and go, okay, I did this, I'm doing this.
yes, ma'am, and
But-
that is how I work.
And
yes.
that's how I work too. But that was created based on this bigger document. And with our assumptions that you just go, oh, I have all these other things to do. Like we assume that you're doing these things. We don't know all of that. And I do think it just has to be really clarified, and then we will get that done.
Mm-hmm.
We'll figure it out and give the right direction.
And may I ask, and this is not part of this, but do we have an updated version of this now?
I can give you the current version we're operating under.
Okay.
Literally, we were looking at that one.
All right.
From another city. I don't even remember what city that was. And so we started making some changes to that one. And I was thinking that was the one we were under, and it just was not. That was just a colossal blunder on
Well, this
my
is
part.
this is very vague. I mean, this is like anybody could be under this. Reading this, It doesn't really, it's not specific to the city of Keystone, it just says council or, instead of commission or whatever Orange Park is. But yes, okay, yes, I would like a new one, please.
We'll get that emailed out
Thank
to all of
you.
you, and if you want a hard copy, we'll
I
make
would
you
prefer a hard copy of
Okay.
that, please.
Hey, Rich, aren't you supposed to have qualified HR? Like, certification?
There are, I mean, so many HR professionals have the SPHR. It's a preference, but not all places require that.
But what about something happens in a lawsuit? Isn't that gonna be one of the things pop up? Oh, you didn't have a certified HR department.
It could.
Well, Tony's gonna take care of that for us.
Oh, yeah, I'll make a phone call.
You're on the board.
It's been quiet the last hour.
I know he has, right?
Look what happened when
You
he
got
suggested
homework, you got
something.
homework.
You okay, Tony?
Probably think about work tonight.
It'd be interesting to know how many of the, like I mentioned, 28% do HR in this survey?
It depends on the size of the
Like,
place.
it is, I'm sure, but it did say that most of these were small cities from what the thing said. But it'd be interesting, just like what Speedy mentioned about, are any of them certified for HR, And it's probably not a very large percent, be my guess. I don't know, because they work for the city. So the city would support that liability if there's anything that came up, I would imagine. Is that correct? So,
May I ask a brief question? The committee that the mayor and vice mayor are forming, are you guys, would you like to email me particular dates you would like to meet? Because I imagine these have to be recorded and public like everything else.
I'm open, Stephanie. I don't need to email anything. I live right down the street. So I'm good.
so we can identify a date right now.
Yes, absolutely.
And what would you like your committee to be called? Contract committee, job description committee? I'm just trying to.
Job description or PD committee, nobody will understand PD probably.
Just call it the employment committee.
Employment
Employment
committee?
committee.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
Good.
who the council employs for the
Yes,
attorney,
good job.
manager, and
Yeah, good idea.
That's why he's a lawyer.
Okay, so,
Kind of test your blood sugar before you leave.
in order,
You don't see all these rappers over here. I just had a tutu.
so in preparation to make our next meeting for this committee worthwhile to do, like to be productive, I would say that before that meeting, we need to have the time to go through and look at the job description, look at the charter description and the contract, and pull out what doesn't match. Identify what doesn't match on each role, and then we sit down and discuss that and determine where did those pieces go.
Can you
We
as
can
a-
do it during the day,
Yes.
right? Can we do it? We can do it during the day so that,
That would be wonderful.
yes, it would.
I've already done most of that
I'm best
already.
before noon.
I have
and I'm
done that.
Still on the coffee.
Have you already done that?
I've done a lot at home, yes.
Yeah. I did
But
too.
no, I haven't done everything.
I've done what I just described, like
Yeah.
comparing. I pretty much know, I'll just put them in separate buckets.
Well,
That
then
way-
we shouldn't have to meet very much then.
No, I just think the pre-work will be important, so we can go right to it and say,
Yes.
this is what we got, what are we gonna do next?
Mhm.
Okay, so when you said anytime, next week?
Yeah,
All right.
You have, as far as I see, you have open availability during the daytime in here, unless Miss Bell sees something that I don't. I don't know if Miss Bell's still back there. No.
Well, if this is, well, never mind.
Today's Wednesday. We could do next Wednesday. Gives us a week, because we got another workshop coming up next week on Thursday.
on Thursday? What's that one for?
City Hall renovation.
It's either that or, yeah, is it gonna be City Hall renovation? Okay. Yeah, next,
On the 10th.
we all agreed to that just a few weeks ago, or last week.
Yes.
I thought it was, I didn't know it was that soon.
Can
We
we,
got one every week.
We just
Could I re-establish that maybe later in November? And the reason I ask is I had a furniture consultant guy come in here Monday and measured the room, and he's gonna produce some drawings, and had him go through all the conference room, my office, and back to, I heard you say ergonomics. Everybody needs a good workstation.
Yes.
And we're blessed, nobody's out sick right now. You know, so we've got a full building and a full parking lot for the first time since I've been here. So I want to get my whole thing is to make it a place where everybody likes to come to work, and I think we've done that. So I'm going to come back to you guys. If you remember in the ARPA funding, it will kind of become a addendum to your budget. We had bucket truck and a pickup truck and furniture and things that totaled close to the 380 something.
Pickleball, tennis court.
Yep. So we've got to obligate and execute that money by the end of the year, or obligate it by the end of the year, execute it by the end of 26. So I will come back to you with a proposal on furniture that is with a company that allows, they've already done this in other counties and cities, so it can just be simply piggybacked. It's already been through a bid process, so you can just kind of up or down, whatever.
So are you suggesting that we change the workshop until you get all this? And
Yes,
that would be
ma'am.
awesome.
Okay, so we can either meet the 9th, so I'll take that workshop off, and then we'll just, the one for Thursday night.
Yeah.
Okay, so the workshop on the 10th is canceled, to be rescheduled sometime in November.
Yes, sir, and that's the city, or the.
That's
the indoor
way
stuff.
better.
Yeah, I'm wide open on the
There's
night.
nothing on the new desks and such.
Okay.
Okay. So then, Chris, you want to shoot for Wednesday?
Wednesday at what time?
I don't care. Midday, 2 o'clock, I don't care. I'm around all the
Are you
time.
good, are we good on Wednesday for this room?
I will check, but check the council room, and just check for.
I mean, it's either that or we can meet in the council room. Doesn't matter. It's just gonna be, the two of us, right?
They have to film us, right?
Oh,
I mean, I can always do it on the cell phone too, like we do in the pavilion. It's not a big deal if we need to do it in a smaller room, not a problem. Adjustments can be made, but Drew's gonna let us know in just a moment.
It kind of small,
Okay.
because by law, you're not supposed to have
People,
meetings that would
public.
appear to
The
exclude the
council's
public.
room is open all night.
We are
All
open
day.
on the night, all day.
okay.
So did we say 10 too, what I hear?
I think 10 would be good. Would 10
Okay.
be okay with you?
Yeah.
Or 11?
Shoot for 11.
About 11.
Okay.
I'll put it on the calendar.
All right, thank you.
And pardon my ignorance, Rich, but with a new committee being formed, is there anything I need to report on that? Do I need to send that anywhere?
No, The city council can create ad hoc committees
This is
after.
gonna be the,
Thank you.
Job committee or employment committee, employee committee?
Employee committee is what
Employee committee.
but we can change that up to anything y'all would like.
Well, I think employee committee.
okay.
I have employment committee. Do you want employment or employee?
Employment, it doesn't really matter to me, as long as it's.
Okay.
I just took what
Yeah,
Rich,
advertise
Mr. Commando used and stole it.
Fine.
Okay. I think we're good. Anybody else have anything to add?
Anybody have any?
Did you need them to answer you about the next Friday?
Tony?
It's the only time you're gonna have them all in the room.
I just need a minute at the end.
We're at the end.
Okay, Miss Wendy,
Yes.
did they already get back with you on the gala for a week from Friday?
I did. I got back.
I saw that you
Yeah.
did, but I was out a lot today.
Then I talked to you about it.
Right, so,
I won't be in town.
okay.
The
So
chamber,
did-
the chamber?
Yes,
bill?
ma'am. Was anybody going?
I'm going.
Okay. You're going? All right. So,
sent you an email with that information too.
I'm sorry.
I said, just wanted to know he has an email around that.
Oh, and because the original advertisement, and I talked to Wendy the other day, I was happy to hear that she was back.
Okay.
But it didn't have the time on it?
5:30.
5:30,
Yeah.
so,
It's 5:30 to 10, but also I think Camp Landing needs all of your names.
Yeah,
right,
to get
right.
in there.
So me and Mr. Cussler and Councilman Lewandowski, we got that little retiree card, gets you in a lot of places, but we'll have to put your name down, they're gonna be looking for you at the gate.
She's a DOD retiree, don't you still have base access?
No,
Oh, really?
no.
So,
I've
Mr.
been
Brown
there.
and I talked
No.
earlier, the way I stated it in the email to you guys, I believe, and I don't think it was wrong, but in my head, it was kind of like when you guys go to the Florida League of Cities dinner. The council's authorized to go and for that to be, I guess, part of your professional development, and the city's authorized to purchase your
Right.
dinner, your ticket to the place.
Right.
And then if you bring a +1, then you pay for that.
Okay.
But this is different, it's more expensive, like a table for 8 people costs $1,500. If, like, I take my wife, it's $155 per couple. And Stephanie Van Zandt and I are planning on going. So that, you guys can make a decision
Are you-
Monday and give me more firm direction if it's better to do it in a meeting other than a workshop, as to whether you guys want to pay with city funds for a gala type event, or if you just, everybody wants to pay their own way, or however you want to do it.
Let me
Go ahead.
jump in. We have never, to my knowledge, paid for anything like this with taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Because it's not, we do pay for the legislative day that the chamber puts on. That's a little different because it definitely is not, I don't believe it's $1,500. But that is our opportunity to go to our legislators, that they report to us as elected officials and chamber members and everything in the county of what's going on in Tallahassee. And also in DC, you know, that affects our county and our people that we, you know, represent. But when I saw the email, I was very questionable about it, because I don't see if we want to go. I just have a hard time spending taxpayers' money for us to go and have something like this. And for $1,500, I think that's a little steep. And since we're on TV and whatnot, we'll probably be questioned. I would, if I was a taxpayer, I would question why we're spending that kind of money. And when we go to the League of Cities dinners, yes, that comes out of our contingency that's in the budget for us to do that. And there again, we're with our peers in different areas, and we have speakers that we've used in the past to come here and do
It's an
stuff.
educational.
It's an educational thing for us. And, but when we do not attend and we've signed up, it's our responsibility as council to pay back that $25, which I will tell you has gone, we voted the other day to go to $35
Right.
per dinner. But it's our responsibility. If we don't go, we pay the city that money.
Yes.
So, and everybody's been real good at doing that if you don't
Yes.
go. So, but to go and spend $1,500 of taxpayers in the city, I have
Yeah.
a problem with that. But, and
I
again,
didn't
this is a
realize how
workshop,
expensive
this is a
it was.
workshop, so I
It's
don't
very,
know.
I can't afford a ticket.
I apologize for that. In my mind, I just equated it with, I can't buy food except for this, and I transferred that line of thought onto this.
Well, I'd love to go, but I'm not, I'm not, I can't afford to go and take myself, and I don't think the city, I'm with Tony on that.
Because there's 155 a person.
Yeah.
85 for a
Couple.
single.
I'll wait for the
That's my
gala,
main
the
pay.
centennial gala.
187.50. I mean, if you divide 1,500 into 8.
Right. So I take it back. I'm not going.
Sorry. Keep it,
You're just trying to hold the
Expectations.
standard, yeah. It's just a standard.
It is.
We're learning the rules.
right. So, I have one caveat. Even though I am a good reader of regulations, I received a jury summons to the federal court in the Middle District. And this is not Mrs. Green's operation in Clay County. This is like a federal jury trial. And so I have to call after 6 p.m. this Friday to see if I am to report on what particular day. It had exemptions, excusals, whatever. And so any of you could be exempted, you're elected officials. And then it went on to state if you're an appointed political official, and so I tracked that. I referred to their own policy and requested excusal and was summarily denied. And then I called back. I'm like, am I reading this wrong? Because I thought. So anyway, I may or may not actually get called in between October 7th and October 25th for an undetermined amount of time. So,
There's been a
Rich,
lot of
what is a,
people
what is a
I know that's been
federal
called up.
summons?
I've
What is a federal,
never
There are-
had jury duty.
is that's not like a grand jury?
No, so a grand jury is impaneled to decide essentially if there's probable cause on a criminal charge, or to issue. a
Right, I was on the grand jury in Jacksonville for 2 years.
But these are federal civil cases, so there's what's called diversity of jurisdiction. If there's a case where a company's in one state as well as the Middle District of Florida where we sit, and also federal criminal cases, so.
Got it. Charlie, they wouldn't let me off the grand jury either. And I had just started a new job, so.
I was still on active duty. That was an exemption, but I couldn't be here with you guys at that.
I had just started a new job at the Naval Hospital in '96, and they wanted,
I don't mind
they held
doing that. I
grand
just-
juries for 2 years.
You know,
The next year, they started lowering it to 1 year. So I was on the grand jury and the deputy foreman for 2 years in Jacksonville.
What does that look like for you when you do federal? Is that the one where you have to stay there on premise?
No, that has nothing to.
Whole different, okay.
That's
No.
sequestration, that depends on essentially the level of publicity that a trial will be on.
I will throw in my 2 cents. 2 years ago, I got called up and I tried the elected official thing and didn't work. And that was Tara's court. And fortunately, the guy pleaded out. We didn't have to go to court. But
So anyway.
But good luck with it.
I'm a big boy. It'll be fun.
You're the
And
winner.
if you don't see me, I might be in Jacksonville.
Where is it again?
It's the federal courthouse downtown Jacksonville.
Nice courthouse.
It's Ryan Simpson
On the river.
U.S. Courthouse.
You're gonna have
Hogan
some good
Street.
lunch choices at
It's,
least.
if you know
I
where.
know it well, or I used to know,
If you
and
know
I
where
think it's
Jacksonville
good.
City Hall is, it's the building to the left,
Uh-huh.
or to the west.
So I think that's all the exciting news that I have to offer.
Okay. We're all good? All right.